It seems real odd, and I was reading something about this new innovation called Worldcoin, and I don't know too much about it, but I think God does. So I don't know if you want to speak on that, but I know you're a little bit more privy to that than me. This is all news to me, though. So
Yeah, so Sam Altman, who's basically the former founder of, I think he was the former president actually of Y Combinator, that venture capital like startup fund thing. He basically started this new cryptocurrency coin called WorldCoin, and he just recently raised $100 million in a token sale, and he got investors like Andreessen Horowitz and Sam Bankman-Fried, who's the founder of FTX, and a couple of other venture capitalists. I think actually Coinbase actually invested in it too. So basically, he started this cryptocurrency called WorldCoin, and so this is like a very interesting proposition of what he started. So basically, um, it's this coin where there's this orb. Basically, he wants to give everybody in the world this cryptocurrency. But the problem is, like, how do you prevent people from getting duplicates of a particular cryptocurrency? He invented this orb where it basically scans everybody's eyes, because basically everybody has different because of the capillaries or whatever in everybody's eyes. Basically, everybody's eyes are different, and they have different retinal displays. So you're basically using this orb to scan everybody's eyes, and as a reward for him scanning your eyes, you get this cryptocurrency called WorldCoin. So he's basically giving these orbs to I think they call them orb developers or whatever. So he's sending them out to all different areas. I think it's he basically sent it to Chile, Argentina, um, and a couple other places where he sent these coins. And these people are like signing up millions and millions. I think they signed up basically like 10 million people already around the world for this world coin thing where they scan your eyes. And his idea is basically to it's to have like a universal basic income where everybody is basically allowed to is going to have a set amount of money each week, and he verifies it through basically their retinal scanning, which I think presents a couple of privacy concerns, where they have this data on your eyes, and what are they using this data for, and why do they need the scanning of your eyes? So like I think this is a I don't know if I would sign up for this, or basically look into this orb and let them have a retinal scanning of my eye. I think it's very weird.
yeah, I think that that is something that's really interesting, and it seems that finally, people are coming around to these really weird like privacy concerns arising with companies, right? We see that with Facebook. A lot of people moved away from Facebook, and now we're seeing that consumers are putting big tech companies under a lot of pressure to. I say Facebook, but really, Meta, right? They rebranded. It seems like now a lot of these big tech companies are under fire to like finally take control of privacy issues that have been going on with companies. Like Apple cracked right down on Facebook, right? They stopped targeted ads. That's what it was. And that negatively impacted the stock and just destroyed Facebook's advertising revenue.
Yeah, it's true. So the problem I see with this is we see with this coin is too. Like I guess it does present a valid security measure where you can only open your wallet if with your the retinal scanning of your eye, because basically if you look at twins or whatever, they have the same DNA, but twins don't have the same retinal scans. So basically, it's a way to protect it. It's a good technology that's basically a way to protect your cryptocurrency. But I think there's different measures that can be put in place basically to have your crypto protected. You could basically have it secured in one of those vaults. I think that's in Switzerland. It's in the mountains. You could basically invent a blood device where it only opens with your blood, or basically you have to basically give it a piece of hair or another piece of DNA for it to open. I don't think this scanning is a viable technology. I think it's actually going to present more harm than it does good.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, okay? But let's say I am, for the sake of this example, of course. To me, it seems that the offering of universal basic income and then access to that universal basic income in the form of like retinal scanning and collecting people's DNA, it just seems like they're basically, I could be wrong. Like I said, hypothetical conspiracy theorist in this example. If I was a conspiracy theorist, I would kind of think, okay, they're paying people. They're essentially paying people for their DNA, right? Like, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And another thing too, like I've always, again, hypothetical conspiracy theory example. There are some people who think like, 23andMe and all these Ancestry.com and all these other companies that collect your DNA, like, what are they doing with it? They're obviously not destroying it after the fact, right? Like, how do you, and even if
Well, I
they
would
do,
say probably
that's
get sent
the case,
to
so.
police agencies, or like I would say probably get stored. I wouldn't doubt that.
I mean, if I was a local police department and, someone, whether or not they're an offender or not, like you have their information, you have their date of birth, you have all their genetic
Right.
information,
You're
you have
expanding
all
your
their
database in case they commit a
samples,
crime
like
in the future.
put it into put it into the database before they even commit a crime. And then like now a guy commits a crime and let's say, or there are fingerprints on a gun and you don't really have any leads of like who to investigate, or you don't have any camera footage, you could just run through the database and see whose fingerprints they are
Right. It
before like
makes
even interrogating anyone. And you'll be
makes
able to
perfect
figure it out
sense.
like that. Cause you go, oh, we have a 100% match of those fingerprints in our database because that guy took a DNA test or whatever the case may be, or he like scanned his thumb. Like, there's no way that I find it very hard to believe that these companies aren't turning over this like very sensitive
The thing is,
DNA
though,
information over
these
to other law enforcement agencies or
thing is
governmental
though,
agencies.
these orb operators are actually making like a shit ton of money, and they're like in these poor countries like Nigeria, Chile, etc. They're signing up. They have like basically a group of people, and they do like 24-hour shifts, and they're signing up like 10,000 people a week. And they're saying some of these orb operators are making like $500,000 a year in these poor ass countries like Chile and Argentina, which is fucking crazy. But I mean, I guess that's the location you want to go to if you want to basically have the most easy way to collect this data. Like if you have orb operators in the United States, I think they would be more hesitant to basically scan their eyes to get a cryptocurrency. But if you go to a poor country where people are starving and they can't get food, they'd be more open to it.
Of course, because their DNA to them doesn't mean anything, right? Like the main thing that matters to you if you live in a poverty-stricken country or a country that doesn't have adequate access to food, water, and shelter, like your main goal is like, where's my next meal coming from? Like, where am I going to spend the night, right? And how can I put myself or my family in that position to be able to have readily available access to food, water, and adequate shelter? So if you sell your data or you sell your information, you're just like, woohoo, like this is good. I'm getting paid for something that doesn't really require too much extra effort on my part, and I'll be able to provide for my family. And these are people who have obviously very limited
I
options,
was
right?
reading the white paper. Supposedly they're only going to store your data for 2 years while they basically work on the technology to basically develop the retinal scanning, and then they're not going to store your data anymore. Once it's in the system, they're going to like delete it. But I don't know how true that is. Every time I hear companies say like, "Oh, we don't store your data, we don't keep it on in our servers," maybe about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later, there is a privacy lawsuit, and they basically pay a huge sum of money because they basically did end up storing your data. Like Snapchat, they said, "Oh, we don't store pictures, we don't store your pictures on our data center or our clouds." Then they've got found out later on, oh, they do store your pictures on there. There's tons of companies that say they don't do it, and then they basically get discovered that they do it.
Right. Well, how do you think? Here's another main thing that you got to think about, folks, with technology. Any sort of service that's offered to you for free. Think about it.
You are the
How do you
product.
think they're making money? Like, I don't know if you saw the Social Dilemma on Netflix. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. But you are the product, like God just said. Like, Facebook is a free to use service, Instagram free to use service, Snapchat free to use service. Like, how do you think these companies have like multi-billion dollar or